welcome to another edition of Localcast.net Screencasts. More Vim goodness. Today we're going to talk about buffers. And buffers are a very powerful feature. When you combine them with the splits that we talked about in episode 1, you get done with this, you're going to be able to be a lot more productive in Vim. And I challenge you to let me know how other editors stack up against these two features in a nice combination. So start off with, let's go ahead and let's define a buffer. And we're going to define a buffer by demonstrating. So let's go ahead and I've got 4 files here in my project directory. We're going to pretend these are all code or something that I'm working on. Let's go ahead and open up the A. Notice that I've got the A file here and I've changed and dinked with it. So let's go ahead and clean it back out. And so here's my A file. And if you remember from episode 1, we talked about splits where we could actually open a file at the, in 2 splits at the same time. What we have here is we have a single buffer, a buffer that is the file a.txt loaded up into memory for us. And it's split into 2 windows, both pointing at the same buffer. In this way, we can work on a file in 2 different locations at the same time because the window points to the buffer that's already loaded, but the window can move up and down and separate so that they can view different areas of the same buffer at the same time. While we're here, let's go ahead and finish opening up the rest of our files. We've got a C and we've got a D .txt file. Notice that I just opened them within this window. So as we moved along, this one changed and this one is still looking at the original buffer of a.txt. Let's close this out and let's start talking about our commands. Obviously, working with buffers is going to have a series of commands. The very first one to worry about is, of course, buffers. And what does that do but demonstrate to us that we have 4 buffers open, A, B, C, and D, let us know where they're at, and gives them all a number, 1, 2, 3, and 4. We can use this by using the buffer command to progressively open up the files by their number. Now, we're not getting anything faster yet. I mean, it's nice that we can see our buffers, definitely, and it's nice that we can change between them. However, typing that out every time is going to be a little bit of a bear. So, like everything, there tends to be some shortcuts. And the first one that we've got is B previous. Oops. Let's do previous first. If I could type today. Notice that lets us jump to the last buffer that we had open. And it gets better because it gets shorter. You can do P prev and B P. So we're down to just a couple keystrokes and we can start trucking backwards through our files. Of course, sometimes you want to work the other direction, so we have B next, which also can be shortened to BN. And here we are on B and C, and we just start rocking through our buffers here. So there we go. That's a little bit nicer and shorter. The other thing that we want to shorten is, earlier we had said we could do buffer 1. That's great and all, but we can also do B1, or let's do B2 so we can see something change. All right, so now we've got same 4 buffers, just like before, but now we can jump between them by giving just their number. While we're talking about the Vim commands, and there are a lot here to buffers here, let's go ahead and open up our help window here with buffers. There's a lot here. What I find is that, in all honesty, I don't use a whole lot of it other than moving through them. And we'll actually get to here in a second. There's just my main interaction with buffers is actually through plugins that supply the feature set that I'm really looking for to allow me to quickly jump through files. But there is one command that, when it comes in handy, it's really handy, and that is the BALL command. And as you might imagine, BALL will actually open all of your buffers, split up for you one at a time so that you can actually go through and see them all. Again, not one that I use a whole lot, but when I do need it, it's very, very handy to have. So let's move on to our plugin interactions, because really that's where I think buffers shine in day-to-day use. And there's a plugin called MiniBuff Explorer, or EXPL. It's actually minibuffexplorer.vim that you can get from the VimScript site. And let's go ahead and copy that over to my plugin directory. Now, in order to do this, we have to basically relaunch Vim here. So let's go ahead and relaunch it and put it back on our main window here. And let's go back and open up our file. And once we do that, we have the command here, MiniBuff Explorer, which will open up the split window here. And up top, we can actually see our MiniBuff Explorer window. while we're working on this, as we open other files, let's open all of them back up again. ec.txt and ed.txt. And here we go. So now we have buffers 1, 3, 4, and 5. I don't know where 2 went. But basically it shows us our open buffers without us having to run the buffers command. Notice that each one has a number here, and that same number matches up here. So at a much easier glance, we can hop between our files. We can see, I know where 2 went. 2 is actually the Buffer Explorer itself. My bad. All right, we can actually see which file is active, which ones are available, and we can easily hop between them using our B and a number command. Very handy. For those mouse fans of you guys, you can actually open up the various buffers just by double-clicking on each file up here. So, kind of cool. It helps you basically see your buffers as they open up and allows you to more easily switch between them as you hop from making change in file 1 to file 2 to file 3. So Minibuff Explorer, there you go. Not a bad plugin. However, my favorite buffer navigation plugin is one that's called Lusty Juggler. And once you get past the name and make sure you don't get in trouble for having something called Lusty on your machine from work, it's a very, 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 very nice interaction here. Basically, I have the command mapped to leader B. And notice that down here in the bottom, I have a list of my open buffers. We have A, our Minibuff Explorer actually here, D, C, and B. Notice that they're not in the same order here that they are up here. Up here they show up in the order that they were opened, numerically, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Down here, what you'll actually find is that these are opened in the order of most recently used. So I've most recently been in A.txt. Before that, I was in the actual Minibuff Explorer buffer here, and then before that, D, C, and B. So as we go through, let's go ahead and go to the next one and rerun. Notice that now C is the latest, B is previous, and A is before that. What this really gets handy is that instead of clicking down here or doing some kind of numeric, juggling, basically the way you open the buffer that you wish to open is using the keys in your home row. It maps all of the files here to the key starting on A on your home row on your keyboard. So there's A, notice it highlights it for me, S, D, F, and G, and it goes right on down the line through L. And what's really nice is that to open a file, you actually just hit that letter twice. Once to highlight and verify, yes, that's the one you want. So let's go ahead and hit S twice and open up B. Now B is moved up to the front. And notice how the plugin just kind of disappears and goes away. You did your work. You opened your buffer that you wanted. And as you go along, you can very, very quickly figure out which file you want to open and just hop right to it. Over time, you'll find that you can kind of get a feel based on where the file name is to which character you need to hit. What's nice is that because it does a verifying for you, is that it does this little green highlight step as you get a sanity check before you hit it twice. So if I go off and I hit A on accident and I meant to hit S to open up the second buffer, you get a quick second to worry about it. It's also nice that if you want to open the last one on the line, basically any of the keys out here, notice G, H, J, K, L, they all point to the last file. It doesn't doesn't run off the page kind of thing. But anyway, so here's Lusty Juggler. Very, very quick and easy way to hop between the buffers that you have open. And what I would challenge you guys to do is to try this out. Open up a project. Don't load up NerdTree over here on the side or some kind of file browsing plugin. Just work on a few files that you need to work on in one sitting, and then start using the buffers and the plugin of your choice there to kind of work back and forth between the various buffers. What's nice is that the buffers remember their state. They remember what line they were on when you left them. So if you were 300 lines into a file and you went to another file to edit something and you come back to the buffer, you'll actually be sitting there on line 300 right where you left off. So I definitely love working with buffers, and I love the plugins, and like we mentioned at the beginning here, I love how you can easily now, between splits and buffers, open up just about any file you want, all within the same window. And notice that we've not had to open up a tab once here. And this is part of the thing that really sealed the fate of tabs for me and when I'm working on my coding, because there's just no reason why. I mean, being able to keep these things open full screen, to split the screen, to even split it again. Let's go and open up, C and A. So, here very easily I've got 3 different files open, comparing them side by side. I can close them, and yet I still have access to this neat history of what I've had opened, when I had it open, and very easy to go back and forth between things. So here we go, a little bit of a shorter edition of the Vimcast, Vim Screencast today, and I hope you guys find the buffers very, very handy. I know that I do. Thank you much. Till next time.